This is from Corey Dennis. He wrote, "I've heard you share your testimony briefly in the past and knew that you did not grow up in a Baptist church. How did you end up in a Baptist church?"
Well, interesting question. My mother was a missionary to the Jews from the Lutheran church up in Wisconsin, where she was raised in La Crosse. And when she and my dad got married, she led him to the Lord, actually, on one of their first dates. My mother did. And then, so we were, when I was a child, I was baptized, or got wet anyway, in the Lutheran church in Morton, Illinois, outside of Peoria. And then at somewhere about the age 6 or 7, I think, I don't remember, we switched to the Mennonite church, which was right across the street from my grade school, Pleasant Hill Mennonite. They were not the horse and buggy Mennonite, but they were, Mennonite. And I didn't know one thing from another at age 7. We were there for probably about 4 or 5 years, and then somewhere around age 12, we went to the United Methodist Church in Morton, Illinois. At no time was I saved. I probably heard the gospel and could have gotten saved in the Mennonite church. They certainly preached it, but I wasn't paying attention or didn't get it for whatever reason. Then at age 16, my brother got saved. He was 3 years older than me. He was down at the Illinois State University studying to be a teacher. He got led to the Lord by the Navigators Bible Study group at the college there, and got concerned about me, and invited me to come spend the weekend with him at the college. And then I ended up getting saved February 9, 1969, in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, at Illinois State University. When I came back home, I told one of my friends in school that I'd gotten saved, and he'd been praying for me and had talked to me some. He said, "Well, that's great." He said, "Let's double date, and I'll help you learn the Bible and help disciple you." I said, "Wonderful." So I asked a girl out, Kathy Graycheck, I don't know what happened to her, and he took a girl named Charlotte Cohen, C-O-W-E-N. Charlotte was the only girl in our high school of 2,000 students that always wore a dress. Always. And so we double dated, went out to the cabin. My dad had a cabin on the lake, and we had a wonderful time, played Monopoly, and went boat riding, and a good plain day. And Charlotte's date said, Tim's date, Charlotte said, "Kent, what church do you go to?" And I said, "Well, I just got saved last week, and I don't really know much about all this. I'm wanting to learn." She said, "Would you like to come to my church? My brother-in-law is the youth director." I said, "What kind is it?" She said, "It's a Baptist church." I said, "I don't think I've ever even heard of a Baptist church. I don't think I've ever been to one. What is it?" She said, "Well, I think you'll like it. We just study the Bible." And I said, "Okay." So she invited me to her little independent, temperamental, fundamental, right-wing, radical, chicken-eating Baptist church, Bethel Baptist in Pekin, which at the time was down on Willow Street, meeting in a storefront building. And it was jammed, and the preacher banged on the pulpit and yelled and screamed, typical Baptist church. It was exactly what I needed as a brand new Christian. It was exciting. The singing was exciting, and people were jammed in the building, and it was electric. And I loved it. So I went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and just really began growing in the Lord at that independent Baptist church in Pekin. Later, they moved out on Broadway and built a new building. I eventually ended up pastoring the church when I came back from Bible college. I was there about a year as assistant pastor. And the pastor said, "Brother Hovind, I was an evangelist before I came here, and I came and preached, and they wanted me to stay. I've been here 12 years, and I want to go back in evangelism, and I think God's got you prepared to be the pastor." I was 22 years old. I said, "I don't know, brother." And he said, "Yep, you're ready." Okay, so they voted me in as pastor at Bethel Baptist Church. I started a Christian school. That was the fad back in those days, 76, and fell in love with the school part, the teaching part. And a friend of mine he was the head of all the Illinois Christian schools. And he said, "Brother Hovind, your school is one of the most organized and well-run schools in the state." He said, "There is a church up in Bourbonnais, Illinois, a suburb of Kankakee, that has a large Christian school just started, and it's not organized. It's chaos. Would you consider going up there?" I said, "Well, brother, I've been pastor now here for a year and a half, and I enjoy everything I do. I love the Lord, but I just feel like a duck out of water. This is not my calling to pastor a church. I love the education part." He said, so he contacted Bob Graham in Bourbonnais, Illinois, at Faith Baptist Church, and I drove up there in a snowstorm and interviewed with him, and it was just marriage made in heaven, ended up working for him for the next 9 years. He left there and went to Longview, Texas, and I followed him down there, my wife and 3 kids, to Longview, Texas, and worked there for 5 years. Anyway, that's a long answer to a short question, but I have been very happily, mostly happily, involved in the Independent Baptist movement now for 46 years.
That's great.
Okay.
Yep, that's a great answer. I didn't know that, and it was good to know. Here we go, Corey. Also, how could I get a hold of a Baptist timeline that you drew for guys in prison to show that Baptists are not Protestants? Any books or a website in particular?
I don't know. Once I get out and get to PowerPoint, I'll do a much better timeline. But the name Baptist is probably not that ancient. They were called Anabaptist for years because they rebaptized, or they were accused of rebaptizing the converts. And they said, no, we're not rebaptizing. They weren't converted. We're just baptizing. But the Catholics would say, oh, they were baptized as a baby. And they would say, no, they weren't. They got wet as a baby. That's not baptism. Baptism's only for believers, which is why the King James Bible has Acts 8:37, and most other Bibles do not even have that verse. They skip the verse, the number, and everything, because the eunuch said, hey, can I get baptized? And Philip said, if you believe. Well, they don't want their Bible to say that, because they want to baptize babies, who, of course, do not believe and cannot. So they take the whole verse out.
This call is from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office.
Anyway, so the name has changed. I think probably the word Baptist was at first derogatory, or Anabaptist, trying to, accuse them or ridicule them of something. And the name even today means nothing to me. I am not Baptist because I'm attached to a name. I sort of wasn't raised that way. It's the doctrine. What does the church teach and believe? And some of the Baptist churches are a great embarrassment to the faith and to the Lord. So it's just because it says Baptist does not mean it's a good one. I have preached at many churches that are not Baptist, but I felt like God was there and the Holy Spirit was moving, and they did a wonderful job, and I wouldn't hesitate to go back there again. So the name means nothing to me. It's the doctrine. I want a church and a pastor that follows the book. End of story. Okay?